1, 2, 3. I want to suck your blood.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
We're past the spooky episode.
Spooky, welcome back. We are pre-recording this episode for next Halloween.
Absolutely not. I do not have that kind of time. All right. Oh, you did your clappy thing. Great.
Yes, we are ready. We are ready.
Welcome
we are not
back.
ready. Why are we not ready? Because that one is playing a lamp. Just a little stage effect.
Okay. Well.
Welcome back to Hintzes in the house.
Wow. Be a little less creepy about it.
In this, the most spooky month of all, November, when you're forced to sit with your family for a whole day. Dun, 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 dun,
then, like-
or someone who can play piano for me, right? Or an organ right now for me. It's just you walking into Thanksgiving dinner with a turkey.
It's not only that. It's the potential, too, of then being held hostage going shopping the next day. That's arguably worse. I know. Well, for those who don't like shopping, it would be worse. Don't worry, we will get there. We will talk all about Thanksgiving. However, that is not today's topic.
Today, we're talking about what would happen if
The power did not go out.
all of the power in the world went out at once and never came back. Not only all power, all things that run on electricity.
It's like a giant EMP, like a permanent EMP.
Exactly. Let's say God was just like, this Facebook thing, not good for the human race.
Need to go.
The second time that God looked down and was like, I think I need to kill everything.
He's like, I promise not to flood them. However, I never promised anything about their power supply. So, need to go.
Gabriel, you want some EMP him?
Or just like one
I
master
guess it
plug
probably
for
would've
the
been-
universe.
It
He's
probably
like,
would
hey,
have been
pull that.
Michael. Gabriel is like a messenger. Michael is like the archangel who is like in charge of the Lord's army. He's in charge of the ranks.
I just, in my brain, there's like one master plug to all of the power, in heaven. And they're like, hey,
Yeah.
pull that. Just take it. Just right. Yeah.
God's like, how
Done.
like energy has always worked on the planet? Let's just reverse that,
No more.
Give him something new to work with.
Done with that. Thank you very much. Yeah, if that happens, we were just talking about
Because-
this last week at the very,
Right.
very, very end. And I was like,
Yes.
Ethan, this is a loaded gun. I do not have time for this.
Right, yeah. We didn't want to have a hour-long episode last week, so we decided to cut our... I usually do that before the podcast starts,
Yeah.
but here we are now.
Sound effects and all.
If you're just listening, that was just me scooting my chair in, not me practicing my karate moves. But yeah, we didn't want to have a 2-hour episode last week, so we're like, hey,
We'll pause it.
we can talk about this some other time, I
Exactly.
guess.
Here
Surprise,
we are.
it's right
some other
now.
time. We've made it to
Can
another time.
confirm, it is another time.
So we're talking about worldwide EMP permanent. Step 1.
Kind of like, there was a TV show, I don't remember what it was called, but that was the premise of the show, like, all of the power in the world went out at once. It had the one guy,
That's so helpful.
the black guy who's like a villain a lot in like movies and stuff now, or like TV shows,
Maybe?
He was on Breaking Bad too. He was the guy who like adjusted his tie and then like died. I only know that clip from like, because people were like, that was the best scene ever, so I looked it up and I was
Not
like,
Lawrence Fishburne.
no, it's
Okay,
definitely not.
That's all I got. That's the only one I got that could even
show
mildly
where
play a villain.
power goes out.
Go. There you know.
Look at
There you
that.
go.
It was called Revolution,
Nope.
and it had
I was going to say zero remembrance of that.
Billy Burke.
Okay.
Burke? I don't know. Burke. Billy
Burke.
Burke,
I don't know
I'm
who that is,
assuming.
though.
That guy?
Oh, that guy. Oh, that guy.
And
I think he played Charlie in Twilight.
how do you say his name? Giancarlo?
Yes. Yes. Gian. Oh,
That guy.
Giancarlo.
Yeah.
That guy.
He was the villain in it.
Yeah. Wasn't he the villain in The Mandalorian?
That's what I'm saying. He plays... Yeah. He plays a villain in like a lot of shows
That's
and
true.
movies now.
I think
That's kind of like
they've
his shtick.
animated him for a video game right now, and I don't.
Far Cry.
I thought it was Far Cry. Yeah. That guy.
Yeah.
Giancarlo Esposito.
He was the villain, but it was the same premise where all power just stopped working in the world at the same time. But it was the same thing where like battery, like everything powered by electricity just stopped working all at once.
You know, let's take into consideration a couple of things that still work non-battery operated. You can still go
Horses.
Okay, yes. I was going to say, like, you can still go in and out. Things that we have right now. You can still go in and out your front door, because unless you have an electronic lock, and then, sorry. But, like, it's like a key, right? So that's like a normal mechanical things that don't involve electricity. Can't go anywhere in your car. Can't open your garage door. I mean, you can manually open it, but you can't go anywhere in your car unless you're pushing.
Get some horses. Horse-powered.
But you can unlock and relock your front door, so you can still leave the house. You can walk to the grocery store.
If you had a bicycle, you could ride a bicycle.
You could ride a bicycle to the grocery store.
Are we just going to literally name everything that doesn't run on
electricity? Well, I'm just trying to think of, like, you know, when we talk about, last week we were talking about surviving on a desert island. Yeah. This week we're talking about surviving in current day America, all power goes out.
Right.
It's like, what are the things you can still accomplish? Candles are still a thing.
Yeah.
You know, so you still have some sort of light source. Front door is still a thing. Like, and you can lock up so you don't get looted, which is very nice. If you have a stockpile, you're pretty set.
I suppose so. I think if all the power goes out tomorrow.
I mean, you can lock up, but people will still throw rocks through your windows.
Oh no, the front door's locked.
No, I know.
Guess we're done.
But I just think of, like, all of the things in our life that would change. I think maybe last week at the very end we said, like, our power has gone out a stupid amount of times in the time we've lived at this house. We've lived here for 2 years. Our power has gone out probably 4 or 5 times. Like, it's stupidity. So every single time I'm just like, we do nothing. We sit and we do nothing. What do? We don't do anything.
For no reason.
We can't do anything.
If it were like, oh, there's a storm or this or that.
Right.
No, it's literally just like a Tuesday night. We're just chilling. And then literally all the lights in the house go off.
Chilling.
We were recording we were in the middle of recording a podcast like 3 weeks ago. And we were like 15 minutes in, and then suddenly all the lights went off. I was like, did we trip a breaker? Went out. No, like the entire block is out randomly, like in the middle of the afternoon.
I think one time we were at a friend's house and our neighbors texted us and were like, you all right? Yeah. Power's out at our house. What's up with you? We're like, we're not home, but that's great. What are your go-to activities if the power goes out?
Board games.
Obviously.
We talked about that.
That's true.
The power goes out and you're dying of boredom.
Candlelight and flashlight. Well, batteries.
Sunlight.
You know. Well, during the day. I just mean like at night. Sleep.
Okay, yeah. And
we all take a farmer's schedule.
Like
we all take a farmer's schedule. We all get up with the sun and go down with the sun because there's nothing to do in between.
Time would actually, matter. But
yeah, that's true.
Also on the flip side, would you be able to?
No.
Who would be able to keep track of time?
You wouldn't.
Like.
You would literally just maybe we all have sundials.
I was gonna say you'd have to have like a sundial, or I mean, you can relatively.
You want to buy a sundial?
Be like, oh, it's like midday, but
right.
I can't tell just based on the sun's position. No. I can't tell like, oh, it's roughly 4 p.m. right now. It's like
so day activities like and you read a book. You play a board game, you hang out with your dogs, you make up your own game, whatever. You do a lot of things during the day.
Read your Bible for once.
Nighttime activities is sleep.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing things by candlelight.
I mean, and it gets really dark really early here.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We all just adopt farmer schedules.
By 7 o'clock, it's dark here, and I'm not going to bed at 7 o'clock every single time. Life would just be very different because life right now, we're so used to like being able to watch movies, listen to podcasts, browse on YouTube, listen to music. Like we have so many ways to like occupy time, and a ton of those
are reliant on electricity.
Electrical based. Like we obviously play board games, and that takes up that can do a couple hours.
Right.
But I think that we are obviously in the grand scheme of America versus even the grand scheme of the entire world.
Yeah.
A much smaller group of people are, playing a lot of board games.
It's true.
I mean, I guess people play party games, and that's like a normal thing. But
and I think too, when it comes to social and human interaction, like I think of our friends Brock and Camille, who we play board games with. They live very close. We could walk to their house if we know that they were there.
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like if we don't know, like I'm not gonna just walk over to your house or not be there.
I would assume for a while, most people would probably stay in their house
yeah.
for a little bit. Maybe some people would be out and about, like, you know, I'd probably go outside and, like, you know, talk to our neighbors and be like,
Yeah.
yo, Rick,
What's up?
what's up?
Yeah. Which, like, let me tell you something. If we're getting desperate enough to have at-length conversation with our neighbors, that'd help.
I wasn't saying like catch up. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
talked with Rick enough to catch up with it. I meant like, whoa, what is going on?
Yeah.
But the other thing, like, if like your phone, if everything stopped working, you would have no way to tell how widespread
It's true.
anything was. Like, you would just suddenly not be able to access the internet,
Right.
not be able to call anyone. So you'd be like, this is really weird. And then I suppose eventually news would travel. I'm like,
Somehow,
we
yeah.
would get to the point where people would start traveling. People would start, you know, moving again. Especially like if people had like horses or some form of
true.
transportation. I would assume that there would be some valiant people who would start going around and being like, what is going? Like, is this
What do people with children
nationwide,
do?
worldwide, like with children?
Yeah. It's like
Put them back to work in the fields, I guess.
infants, toddlers. What do you do?
What do you mean?
I just feel like a lot of parents are reliant on like Cocoa Melon. They would all go insane.
I don't know what Cocoa Melon is.
Some Netflix show for children.
Oh. That's a whole nother conversation about just putting an iPad in front of your child and letting them sit there. That's a whole nother conversation.
I feel like we don't have room to speak. We are not parents yet. Like, we do not get to determine what is or isn't. Sometimes I feel like you're
All I'll
just like,
say is I think that is, if that is a common go-to occurrence.
Yes. I was going to say,
it's
if this is
probably
your
a
first line of
detriment.
defense, this is probably not a good
Right.
idea.
It's probably if every single day you're giving your iPad to your kid to let him watch some
Whatever.
sort of TV show or whatever, YouTube videos for like 5 hours a day,
Oof.
probably a
No,
detriment
no,
to your
no.
child's health
I don't
and
think
mental
anyone is doing
development.
that. Well, I
I
wouldn't
think
say
that-
anyone.
I think a lot of people are probably doing that because it's easy, because you don't have to.
True. I wonder how many, like, parents are actually regulating screen time. Sometimes I think it's a lot, but it might not be as much as I think.
I don't know.
Not a conversation we're having. So, all power goes out. We don't have a contingency plan. First of all, we need to, like, get with our friends and make
Right,
this
that's,
happen.
That's
Let's
what I'm
make
like,
a plan.
I'm assuming if like all of the power suddenly went out, it would take news. I don't know how long I would wait before like I was like getting antsy enough to like, all right, like let's go like try and do something. Let's go try and figure like let's walk down to, you know, High V and see what's going on at High V. See if there are people there, if the power's on, like
Yeah.
like if all our power was out and it wasn't coming back, and like if like our phones and everything in the cars,
Yeah.
like everything. Because it would be like really weird. Like I said, I'd probably first thing like if like everything went out, phones, cars, power, I'd probably like walk over to Rick's house first and be like, does your car start? Like what's going on? And then if his, then I'd probably check a couple other neighbors, and then like Jared and Brittany would just be like, tap on their glass,
The
sliding glass door. I've had to do that before when their
Reggie,
dog
yeah.
jumped the fence. And I walked it. I jumped our fence into their backyard because I was going to jump the neighbor's fence to try and get Reggie back into their backyard. But as I jumped the fence, I saw like they were talking inside. So I was like, well, now it's like kind of weird because I'm just like walking
their
through their
backyard.
backyard. So I just walked over to the glass, and, like tapped on it, and Jared came out and he was like,
What are you doing?
Your dog jumped the fence. I was just going to get him. Figure you probably want him back in your yard. Like, oh, thanks. I was like, goodbye.
It's a wild time. What is the, I would say, like, number one activity you'd miss if all power goes out?
Number one activity.
Let's see, like, in two phases. The number one thing that you would miss right away, that you'd be like, oh, I really wish I could do this, like, right away. And then, like, later on, like, then a week has passed and you're like, oh, man, it's been a week since I've done this or that. I really wish I could do
Mine
that
are
again.
probably mine would be specific, like, since my family isn't here, like, not being able to, like, call or
with them.
text anyone in my family, and being such a huge distance gap. Like, if my entire family lived within Sioux Falls, it would be relatively easy for us to all meet up.
Figure
I
it
think,
out, yeah.
you know, like we would all congregate towards someone's house, I'm sure, you know. But versus like me living in South Dakota, my family living in Florida, it's like,
Right.
legitimately, would I ever see them again? Or
Right.
would it just be like, because I mean, I don't know how long it would take to walk. You would think it would take like
So long.
probably a couple of months, honestly.
Also depends on the time of year.
Right. If you had good weather
And you're sticking to major roads.
Yeah, and you were not really deterred by like looters or gangs or whatever would develop.
Right.
And you weren't really hindered. I mean, I don't really know how you would walk that big a distance without any sort of like resources or any, like you'd have to obviously pack, but I don't think you could pack that much resources, so you'd have to stop at some point to get more resources. But it would, like, let's just say it would take like 2 months for you and me to walk from here to Florida. It's like, would they still be
in place? Like, would they have, you know, decided we're gonna stay right here?
Yeah.
I think knowing your parents, they probably would have. Your parents specifically, I feel like, would stay put.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like, your parents and your siblings would stay put. The other siblings would migrate, and then they would just wait for us to get there. That's so sad that we're the only ones. Well, no, because Augusta and Travis would have to travel from Daytona. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, like, we're the only ones not in the state border of Florida, so I feel like it would take... But I think that they would. I think they would all congregate around your parents' house.
Now that I think about it too, I feel like a lot of, maybe a lot of people in general, but I feel like a lot of people in the church would potentially congregate at the church. You know, like it would definitely cross my mind to be like, maybe we should like go to Central and just see if people are showing up there, see if we can meet up with some of our friends and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
You know,
the thing is that it's so dependent on the time of year. What do you do if it's winter?
Put on a coat.
Thank you.
If you put on enough layers,
everyone like, you know, huddle together, blankets, coats, that kind of thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like just surviving in general, you can build fires and have blankets and coats, and as long as you're inside the house, it's gonna be relatively warm. You know, like
houses are insulated.
Yeah, houses are insulated, and
all those things.
As long as you're out of the wind, you know, that's gonna play a huge factor.
And no one has broken your windows yet.
Just board them up. All power goes out, just board up all the windows.
It's not a bad
idea. Be expecting looters.
Yeah, so that's the first thing you'd
miss. We should dig a moat.
So that's the first thing you would do the first thing you would miss is like contact with your family, you think?
Yeah.
Like the first thing you'd miss right away.
Yeah, probably.
About a week in, what are you feeling like? You're like, I really wish I could do this.
Probably play a video game with Scotty.
Yeah, that's true.
Be like, well, never doing that again.
It's so nice to me that like your desires revolve around human connection. Love that for you.
Or I was gonna say
like something stupid.
Oh, I was gonna say like, or play my bass. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you can play a bass, but like.
Right. I was thinking something along the lines of like, I think the first thing that I would miss right away is I think still human connection related, but like texting anybody.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like right now I'm off socials and whatever. Like I can live without social media. It's not going to kill me. But like not being able to like text people, you know, especially right away in the early days when I'm trying to figure things out.
Right.
To have all communication sources cut off, I think would be the worst for me. Of like, and I mean that includes my mom. I talk to her once a week, if not more. But like to not be able to text our friends down the street or across the town or whatever and be like, oh my gosh, like I think that would be the first thing I would miss. And then probably a week into it, I'd be like, I really miss like mac and cheese or something like that has to do with an electric stove that I don't have anymore.
Right. You know,
I mean, fire and stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully by 2 weeks in, we're able to make food again. You know, hopefully we're not still like, please stove, turn on.
Or I'd be like, I really wish I could play Animal Crossing or something like that. Something like you said, playing a video game with Scotty. It's like, yeah, that's still human connection related. Or I think I would probably just get frustrated with not being able to like turn a light on. You know what I'm saying? Like half the time I come home when the power is out and I still flip on a light that I know like that I just consciously forget doesn't work. And then I'm like, dang it. You know, and then you're doing whatever you're doing in the dark or by the flashlight of your phone, which also doesn't exist in this scenario. So that's just, I think, annoying more than anything. So I think I'd really be like, I really wish I could turn on a light. I really wish I could see some person, like see them at nighttime, you know, like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
I forget what my dog looks like in the night because she disappears because she's solid black, like those kinds of things.
Yeah. Makes you wonder too. I'm assuming in Bible times they must have had like fires. Schedule. Well, I was gonna say they must have had fires like inside tents. To provide some light.
It's true.
You think otherwise it's so dark inside a tent when you go inside. Like maybe they just have like fires outside the tent. And,
right.
And I don't know too. I'd have to do research. I don't know if like their tents like always like came down all the way to the ground, or if they were like kind of open face or something.
I'm wondering too, the material. I'm sure the material of the tent was relatively thick, but if it was light in color, that might allow
some sort of canvas material, like some sort of like
right. And if it was light in color, it would allow light to come through easier.
Sure.
I'm just saying, if you ever put a candle behind a canvas, you can see, like, you know.
I don't know, in color? I don't know what you mean by that.
Like if it's like a beige or like a cream colored or like a white colored tent.
Oh, I thought you meant like if they painted it like blue and purple, it'd be easier to see inside.
No. I'm like if the raw material is like white or white adjacent and you put a fire outside, it'll be easier to see inside the tent is what I was trying to say.
Sure. Right.
But I don't know, how true that is. I would assume it would be. I doubt that it depends on what it's made out of and how they're making it. But like I'm thinking of like, papyrus paper is not black.
That is true.
They could probably dye it with things, but I'm doubting that they're dyeing a whole tent.
Probably.
I'm just doubting that they're dyeing a whole tent with herbs and berries and such. I would assume they're just...
Probably not. Probably want to save those to eat.
Exactly. I'm assuming they're just keeping the raw materials because it's most convenient, like the least amount of work to just keep raw materials. And I would assume the raw materials are not dark in color. That's what I was trying to say.
Can we just talk about like the Israelites used to like move the tabernacle, like it was a tent, but they used to like move it around.
The thing is like if anyone has ever gone camping, I hope so. I can't imagine resetting up a tent in function. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you move a little bit, you set it up again. You move a little bit, you set it up again. When they were wandering in the wilderness, I don't think that they were all in one spot for that whole time. Like I'm pretty sure in my brain, wandering means motion. So it's like, how often are they moving? How often are they picking up? And like, that's all they knew. But I'm just like, you ever go camping and you just set up your tent and you're like, I never want to do this again. Like, let alone do it every single day.
But if you do it enough, eventually you get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this.
Well, and in the desert too, it's like, you're not, tent is your option. And in the sense of like, if you're going camping and especially if you're doing like a backpacking trip or a hike, you might do hammocking or something else that's significantly less time to set up and tear down. But in the desert, you just, they ain't got no sleeping bags. What are you, just sleeping on the ground? Like, no. I mean, they're sleeping on the ground, but under a tent, probably. Maybe not.
I would assume yes.
I wonder what their tents probably didn't have floors. Probably just like,
I don't know, maybe. I wasn't
two
there.
pieces of fabric and like, I'm imagining it being like 2 pieces of fabric that go to the ground and 2 poles in the front. And that's it. Like one in the front, one in the back, and like
the most crude tent possible. I think it was probably a little more sophisticated than that.
They
were able to build a tabernacle. I'm sure that they had somewhat okay tent
in
skills.
My brain, it's the tent that Kronk is sleeping under in the Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
Listen, that movie hits different.
But that's kind of a good point you made that like we've been camping, so we kind of have like some life survival skills.
All of that though,
intact.
We still do not like entirely on battery, but I think of like the camping stove is like propane, so it's like that would still be functional.
Right, I was gonna say we have propane,
but I'm thinking of like flashlights and that kind of stuff. Like still don't work. What do you do at night when you're camping? You have a fire, you have s'mores, and then you go to bed.
Right. Like, the only reason you really use a flashlight when you're camping is
to see inside the tent or to go pee.
Right. I was going to say, when you're, like, having to walk to the bathroom or, I mean, I guess if you're walking to and from the tent, some people use them. Or once you get inside the tent,
a coyote didn't steal your dog.
I think you would probably notice if a coyote stole your dog.
Well, if your dog was sleeping outside.
You'd think that there would still be some noises. No. Or you think this coyote comes up and is like,
sneaking,
like puts him in a headlock, like backs away with Kylo.
Oh he's like, don't follow me.
He like pulls out a knife. He's like, you scream, you die.
That's
backs
true.
away, and Kylo's like, okay.
Can we just imagine Kylo's stupid little paws going up like that? Holy crap! I think Azula would. I'd like to think Azula would come to Kylo's defense, but probably not if a coyote was...
She'd probably attack the coyote.
I don't think so.
I think a coyote is enough. With it.
I was going to say, I think a coyote is enough like a dog that she'd be afraid of it.
No, I don't think she'd be afraid of it. I think that she... I mean, the way she attacks, like, rabbits and, like, that kind of stuff, like... I don't know if she's got some sort of instinct that she knows, like, this is dog, this is coyote. And if she'd be like, food?
Yeah.
You know, like,
That's true.
I mean, if I would be surprised, honestly, even having her, if a coyote were to try and like come and do anything anyways.
I don't think coyotes are deterred by dogs, though.
But by wolves?
Yeah.
Our dog is basically a wolf. Like,
she do be a wolfie.
Right. So it's like,
I feel like coyotes and wolves are like cousins, you know?
Yeah, but I think that coyotes...
They don't mess with wolves?
I don't think coyotes and wolves are pack animals together. I think
Fun
they're
fact,
individually pack animals.
If you have a pack of alpacas, I think they're a herd, whatever, of alpacas, there's usually one guard llama, just one llama, because he protects the pack against coyotes.
He spits in their face. Well, and coyotes like,
I'm pretty sure he stomps them to death, but...
Oh, well. I was going with the wholesome content, but I guess we're getting right into that.
Llamas are my favorite for a reason, okay?
Because they stomp coyotes to death.
Well, because they
curb stomp
they don't
the coyotes.
Actually spit. It's like a snot material, and it paralyzes their jaw, which is actually really funny. But it also paralyzes their opponent. So there's that. And they also stomp coyotes to death. I'm like, listen, y'all are the best. Llamas. The more I learn about llamas, the more I love them.
Take that, coyotes. We hate you. And so do llamas.
Okay, nobody said you hate a coyote, although they got really, really skinny legs, and you're like, how does that hold you up? You know what I'm saying?
They hold me up just fine.
No one was saying that about you. Have you ever seen a coyote? They have like Azula's body, and then they have like...
Azula has real skinny legs too?
No, not half as skinny as a coyote. They literally have like toothpick, like chopstick skinny legs on like a beefy boy body. And I'm like, what kind of creature?
I would never call a coyote beefy.
Well,
they're like a little bigger than Kylo. Like...
Maybe not beefy. I think they're only scrawny because they're scavengers.
Probably.
Like they don't have, a well-fed coyote would still have twiggy legs, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
It's obviously the way that they were designed.
That's true.
It lets them run fast.
Run fast.
I had skinny legs and I could run fast.
Run fast.
What about bullies? Run fast.
Thank you. I was like, where's the rest of this? I knew what it was from. I just couldn't place it. Okay, well,
I can walk from here. It's 20 blocks. Freaky Friday.
Oh, classic.
Good movie.
Oh, man. Well, we've talked to you now for 27 minutes about what to do if the power goes out.
Basically, if the power goes out, congregate at our house if you're our friend. And if you're not our friend, get the frick out of here. What are you doing? Go away. I don't want you. Get off my lawn. I'm digging a moat.
Okay.
For you. I'm going to put spikes in the bottom.
All right. That was extreme.
I'm building a moat.
I think what he's trying to say is
I'm not going to build higher walls. I'm just going to dig deeper holes.
Oh, Lord. Well, I think what he's trying to say is if you're not our friend, why are you listening to our podcast? And also, welcome to our podcast. And we want to be your friend, but not in the case of a power outage.
Don't just show up to my house.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to
reserved
make
for
my
besties.
acquaintance.
I'm just going to say besties only.
I mean, that's just reserved for people I know. let's just put the bar at a normal place. Not only my best friends.
The bar is so low.
Just the normal. Just people I have met.
Have I met you in person? We're best friends. There is no in between.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, I would feel like that's insulting to our actual best friends.
Bring lots of food because we obviously gonna need food.
100%.
What the heck? Then we'll go down to Hy-Vee. We'll loot the place real quick. Come back.
We won't necessarily loot it, but it's like a 3-minute drive. It's like less than a mile. Right. So
I only have like $40 in cash right now.
Can't confirm that being true.
So
that's another thing is like if your money's not in your backyard, you don't have any money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if I couldn't access any of my money, if I couldn't
broke as a joke,
right? If I couldn't access,
does that mean all debt gets erased? The house is just paid off. Our cars are just paid off all of a sudden.
Some repo. I'll be like, you want to buy this car back, Honda? Burn.
Oh dang it! Oh yeah. Lord have mercy.
No. So. Bring your food, bring your board games.
Yep.
Come to my house.
Yep.
We'll party. We'll dig some moats. We got a guard dog who's kind of like a wolf. Who really likes people, so she's not a very good guard dog.
No, but we have a little yippy yappy.
Right. Well, yeah, Kylo.
We've got like a tandem. Yeah. We have a very small guard dog and a very large puppy dog, like lap dog.
He hears something half a mile down the road and he's like,
and left unattended, Azula will follow suit. She'll be like, something is wrong. And then immediately we're like, what are you doing? No barking. You don't bark. And she's
Yeah.
like, I'm so sorry. I've never barked in my
I
life.
like her little like gruff, like, roof, roof.
It's so sad because she knows she's not supposed to bark.
I will say she has a pretty awesome bark. When
It is
Azula
very
barks,
intense.
it's like, woof, I'm a dog.
Yeah.
Kylo's isn't pathetic, but Azula's definitely
Well, and I mean,
has,
if
like,
you can't see
the power
Kylo,
behind
I could
it.
see it being alarming.
kind
if,
of intimidating.
Yeah, if you were on the other side of a door and you couldn't see him.
His is more so just loud and obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
Azula's is like, there's a dog here that is going to eat somebody if she barks,
Right.
because it's deep and
I mean,
she's got some weight behind it.
She's significantly bigger than him. Her vocal cords are bigger.
right.
All of that.
Yeah, bigger vocal cords,
yeah.
bigger lungs, just
All of that.
bigger dog. So she's able to produce
I wish
more.
we taught her how to like speak. Bark on command. That would be very awesome.
Yeah.
There's still time. There's still time.
Mm-hmm. That's you driving into my moat if you come to my house when you're not invited. Don't you forget it.
But if you are invited, please come.
Goodbye.